like clock. I can't stop. Fuck around, make my 40 pop. No popcorn, I pop pistols, reaming my body.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have already gotten the Boruto chapter 57 spoilers. Now, this right here wasn't necessarily a surprise for today. But yesterday, I was planning on uploading my predictions about this upcoming chapter, but some spoilers had already leaked courtesy of Organic Dinosaur, and now we're here to talk about it. But sadly, I couldn't necessarily get my predictions out there. But regardless, we got a lot of information, especially about the new cyborg that was introduced in the last chapter of the Boruto manga called Ada or Ida. In this video, I'm going to call her Ada because I don't necessarily know exactly how to pronounce her name. I know it's spelled A-D-A, but some people are saying it's pronounced Ida. I'm just going to say Ada for right now until it's widely known exactly how it's supposed to be pronounced. But regardless, one of the biggest things that we did find out in this chapter was the abilities of Ada. Now, we've heard that these cyborgs can actually rival Jigen in strength and power. Now, we didn't necessarily get to see any of that. We didn't get to see Ada in action, and it doesn't even necessarily seem like, you know, she's good at fighting. Now, supposedly, we understand what's supposed to be the situation. She's supposed to be stronger than Jigen, but her abilities, in my opinion, is what makes her strong, not necessarily her fighting capabilities, but we have yet to see her fight, so that right there could all change. Now, the biggest thing about Ada is going to be her ability to know everything. People called her the knower of everything. The way that it was explained in the Organic Dinosaur spoilers was that, imagine if you had a surveillance camera in every single room in the world. So right now, when Naruto and Sasuke are basically talking amongst each other and basically discussing exactly how they're going to defeat Code, and specifically in this chapter, there was a 5 Kage summon, and they were talking about exactly what they should do with Code. Ada basically overheard all of that. Now, supposedly that ability right there specifically comes from a dojutsu that she has. I don't really know exactly how to pronounce the name, but the name is right here. You guys can pretty much see it, but that right there seems very interesting. Now, of course, we understand that, you know, when it comes to cyborgs, it's very possible that they have, you know, dojutsu that could possibly be made from scientific technology. We've seen this way back in the Mystic Retrieval arc. We also seen it in Delta's case. She had specific dojutsu that was tailored to her, made from scientific technology, and now we're seeing this one. This right here is on like an even grander scale. I don't necessarily know if it's the most powerful one that we've ever seen, but this right here is the most interesting and most difficult to create. This right here just seems absolutely insane. Now, not only that, she also has an ability to basically steal people's hearts. Now, this right here is super interesting. I'm going to give my full, you know, reactions about this ability when the chapter actually does come out. I can get all the information specifically pertaining to this, but the way that it was explained in Organic Dinosaur spoilers was that she basically has the ability to steal everyone's hearts. Basically, everybody falls in love with her as soon as they see her. Now, this right here is absolutely insane. It turns out that Boruto fell in love with her, Code fell in love with her, the Bug fell in love with her as well. Jigen didn't necessarily fall in love with her, mainly because Jigen was part Otsutsuki, and that right there is going to be one of the big themes specifically pertaining Ada, is that people who are kind of part Otsuzukis, they don't necessarily automatically fall in love with Ada. And because of that, she actually did express interest in Kawaki and Boruto, and potentially, you know, finding her love mate in those two as well, because they're a part Otsutsuki members and they won't immediately fall in love with Ada like off of the bat. So that right there is going to be super interesting. Now, one of the more interesting things that happened in this chapter was the power limiter. We found out exactly how to lift the power from Code. Now, as I said before, we found out that the cyborg, especially Code, has the ability to pretty much surpass Jigen in power. Jigen in power, you know, he pretty much soloed Naruto and Sasuke. So in theory, Code without the power limiter can actually solo Naruto and Sasuke. I do want to point out, even with the power limiter, by the way, and for example, like right now, Code is still limited. He is still stronger than Delta. Now, Delta's going to fight against Naruto very soon in the Boruto anime. We're going to see exactly how Delta fared against Naruto, so we can kind of, you know, power scale Code off of that, so you guys are going to get to see it. But regardless, we found out how exactly Code can actually lift the power limiter and pretty much be 100% full strength, and it's pretty much all hinges on Amato. Supposedly Amato has a ninja tech eye, and he has to scan his eye, and then he'd have to say a code word, then the limiter would actually be lifted. Now, that right there, in my opinion, is super interesting. I really hope that we don't necessarily get to see the limiter be lifted, but I think it's like a foregone conclusion at this particular point. I personally think it's definitely going to be lifted. Now, another thing that I found super interesting about these spoilers is the fact that Code kind of limited the amount of people that he wanted to quote unquote kill. In this episode right here, you know, or in these spoilers right here, it might be completely different when the actual chapter does actually come out. I do want to point that out. But in these spoilers right here, you know, Code said Naruto and Sasuke. Previously, Code said Naruto, Sasuke, Amato, Boruto, and Kawaki. So this right here pretty much changed. Now, of course, we understand that Code is going to eventually have to feed either Boruto or Kawaki to a 10-tail to then create a god tree. So automatically he's going to kill one of those. But it's just very interesting how how the list of people that were actually listed, I mean, it did kind of shrink a little bit. Now, earlier in this video, I did talk about there being a 5 Kage summon and them basically talking about what they're going to potentially do with Code, and they basically talked that over. But one of the more interesting things that I did find was, of course, them talking about Boruto and them pretty much asking Naruto if he's actually willing to kill Boruto if worse things comes to worse. Naruto quickly accepted. He said, of course, he's the Hokage. But in the spoilers, supposedly after that scene, Naruto kind of felt some type of way, man, because he doesn't necessarily know for 100% certain. I believe that Sasuke is 100% certain. He's 100% committed to killing Boruto if he gets too much out of hand. Naruto, I'm not completely sure, and you have to understand that, man, because that is his son after all. Now, not only that, they did also talk about Boruto's karma seal and how they could potentially slow down the progression of the karma seal. Amato introduced some pills called like the Byakugan suppression pill, something like that. Now, Amato said that this right here was not going to be a permanent fix, and also they're going to eventually have to find a way to actually fully stop the karma seal from actually taking over Boruto's body. But he said this right here can actually help a little bit, you know, slow down the progression of the karma seal. Now, here's the thing, the pills actually do have some sort of side effects as well, because they were naturally built to basically weaken the Byakugan. Of course, Boruto's eyesight is probably going to take a hit. Now, also, Amato did actually say, you know, worst case scenario, it could potentially even kill Boruto. Now, obviously, when you're talking about, you know, the potential of just stopping the karma seal and potentially killing Boruto like years down the line, you're going to obviously try to take the pills right now and then try to find a different scenario or try to find a different alternative later on down the line. And that's exactly what Naruto is going to do. It's going to be very interesting to see exactly, you know, if these pills are going to actually do what they think he's going to do. But regardless, this chapter right here seems to be a very interesting chapter, especially when it comes to information. A lot of things that we know is going to come up, a lot of things that we know Boruto, Naruto, Kawaki, and Sasuke are going to eventually have to face, and especially Amato. Oh, let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. But it's me, your boy Baara B, and we out.
It's a knife.